Good morning, Cait.
Hi, Cody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I just want to tell everybody that I just had to sort of stop our conversation and stop myself because I'm so excited to be talking to Cait. And I almost just kept talking to her without hitting record. And then I was like, I gotta just hit record because you guys like to hear all the things. So yeah, we're kind of like in that energy this morning.
It's so good. We're in our matching beige sweaters. We are in our fall uniform. We're ready to go.
It's very fall if you're listening in real time on the East Coast. And if not, you can just have that dreamy fall feeling as you listen to this. So,
Yes.
Cait, I usually start with a little bit about like how who you are, blah, blah, blah. But I kind of want to jump right in and we will get to all that because I have been reading this book. Have you read this book? I'm showing it to Cait right now. It's called The Mother Code by
No.
Ruthie Ackerman. And I picked it up actually at the Omega Center when I was there this fall. For any of you that know that, it's like a healing center that's been there for a gajillion years. And I didn't read it for months. And then I finished my other book. This is so boring, but I started reading this one. And I was reading it last night and I was like, oh my God, this is so, the timing couldn't be better. She's talking about, she's talking about motherhood, but she's talking about it from this perspective of like getting to choose the types of mothers that we want to be, being revolutionary mothers, and sort of this narrative that I didn't even realize that I was so programmed into until I read this, which is around like sacrifice and that we have to give everything up when we become mothers.
Hmm.
And, the way you blend motherhood and business is what drew me to your work initially. So I really want to start there because I'm curious how you came to care so much about that intersection and, how you felt about motherhood as a maiden. Like, just, I'm ready for you to jam on all the things
Yes.
I've just babbled about.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I just wrote that book down. You know, I love me a good motherhood resource. So I love that so much. And what perfect timing. So yeah, I think a lot of us form, as I'm sure exists for a lot of people, a lot of us form our visions of motherhood based on the upbringing that we had. And I think also probably for most people, I'll speak for myself, but I would imagine this is true for a lot of women, based on our partnership situation. Like am so blessed to have grown up in a household with a mom who was so loving and so devoted and really left a legacy of the idea of motherhood is just warmth and devotion and care and loving. And so I always felt really great about being a mom. However, I was also a super tomboy, like super tomboy athlete on all the boys teams, like played boys ice hockey. Like I was feral. I was such a tomboy. And so it wasn't like, oh, I'm just like dreaming of baking sourdough and I can't wait to like have my own little dolly. Like I didn't play with dolls. I was like playing with like sports balls. And um, so when I was in, I don't know, I guess my early 20s, I was sort of like ambivalent. I was like, I'm too busy traveling and doing cool shit with my life. Like I'm not even thinking about motherhood. But I didn't have like a subconscious programming aversion to it because of some childhood trauma. Like that wasn't my story. I have a wonderful mom, but I also wasn't like super drawn to it. And then I met my now husband, Toby, which is I could go into that whole eat, pray, love story. We met on a beach in Bali. I was supposed to fly out 2 days later. I canceled my flight. We had this like whirlwind love story. I stayed out in Bali. He like whisked me to and was living in this like gorgeous villa there and took me to all these places. And I canceled my flight again. Then he invited me to Australia to meet his whole family, asked his mom for this wedding ring, which was his grandmother's, 3 weeks after knowing me, and we got engaged 4 months later. So that's just a short version of
Wow.
what a whirlwind love story. But I kid you not, I think it was like maybe the third time we made love. I was like, holy shit balls, this is my baby daddy. Like,
Mm.
I'm gonna have children with this man. Like, whoa. And that was this first moment of like, oh, I can see the glimmer from the other side. Like it was one of those like sliding doors moment. I can see my future with this man. Like not just I love him, I want to build a life together, but like, oh, we're gonna like co-create in a big way. And so fast forward to January of 2020, Toby and I had just moved out to LA. We lived in Bali together for nearly 4 years, moved together to the States, to Maine. He's Australian, so it was his first move to the States. we're kind of deciding where we wanted to be. We landed on LA. We tripped across the country. We conceived Ella on New Year's Day. And just as I remember the day that I got the positive pregnancy test, and I like was like, babe, I was just about to hop on a call actually, and I was like, babe, I'm pregnant. All right, I'll talk to you in an hour. And he was like, what? Um, and it was just this moment of just so much elation, so much excitement. And at that point, I had already created a successful business. I had built a multi-six-figure business. I'd been featured in Forbes. I'd done a TEDx talk. I'd like gotten all this momentum, but secretly, Cody, I was like falling apart. I was
Mm.
like, right after that excitement, like hot on the heels of all that excitement, I was terrified. I didn't have any mentors. Like now this is, and this is a big part of my whole body of work, but now this is a more, I don't want to say mainstream, but it's not like as fringe of a conversation. Nobody was talking about what does it mean to blend motherhood and ambition back in 2019, because the coaching industry in general, it's not to say there were no mothers, but like nobody was really talking about that. And everywhere I looked, I was seeing like goddessy maidens like living in Bali, not to throw shade, that literally was me, but like, promoting lifestyle ease and like a floating breakfast in an infinity pool and like a 4-hour gua sha morning routine. Nobody was like, hey, this is how you do this with like little people like barfing and sneezing and like tugging at every like limb of your body. Nobody was having that conversation. And so I was like, there's just no way, because I know I don't want to half-ass anything. I don't want to half-ass my motherhood, and I don't want to half-ass my business. And so this is so crazy to me, but I was running a multi-six-figure business. I was like digging through my Google Drive to try to find my resume. I was like, I better polish up my LinkedIn and maybe get an Indeed.com account, because I'm going to have to apply for jobs, or like, I don't know, but I'm not going to be able to like run a company, let alone scale it. And my experience actually, it was like so the opposite. And every woman's experience, I think, is very different. But for me, in that first pregnancy with Ella, I just felt everything start to grow. My fears and worries, but also my focus and like my conviction. And it just like elevated the game. I don't know how else to say that. And that has just been my consistent experience ever since.
Mm. Well, thank you for sharing that incredibly magical story. And that is such a juicy and amazing place to begin. And just wow. Yeah, I resonate with a lot of that in my own experience, which is when I look back, I feel like my maiden self knew how to waste time and a lot better than, like I would sit down at my desk and do 87 different things before I actually did what I was intending to do. Whereas now it's like
Totally.
I've got an hour, I sit down, I'm doing it. So I really do feel you on that like drive and focus coming into play. And I'm curious if at any point, like how you dealt with what was your experience? Because personally, I still am swirling in this from time to time around like the guilt of what I think being a good mother is. And I think a lot
Ugh.
of women have this, right? And it's like it's so deep and it's so I feel it has like a lot of tentacles, I feel. Like
Oh,
it's
babe.
just so, yeah, messy.
Okay, literally, this is just for the real conversation. Half an hour ago, I just
Mhm.
got back from dropping Ella and Jack off. Jack is in preschool, Ella is in kindergarten. What is even
Wow.
happening? James, my youngest, is 18 months. I got back. James started crying. We have a really tenuous, like held together by scotch tape childcare situation right now. Blessed, but we are in the trenches, and it is not. The woman we have right now is not going to be with us like full time, and so um, I was just transitioning him, getting him changed, like getting him. We went out to do the chickens, and then I was like handing him over to our au pair that we have at the moment, and he started crying. And there was so a part of me. I mean, I was so excited to come on here and talk to you, Cody. And I'm like, I'm not missing this call. But there was so a part of me that was like, I belong with my baby. Like
Mm-hmm.
that cry, he does
Mm.
not feel, it's not that he doesn't feel safe, but he definitely doesn't feel a bond with this person, which is part of the reason that she will not be staying with us. But um, it just is like so suboptimal. And I think it's this like primal knowing of like, as a mom, I want to be with my kid. And yet I had this moment of coming into when I stepped into my office and I was like, all right, I'm transitioning. I'm about to hop on this interview. I'm so excited for this conversation. It was this moment of like, I am going to let him have his experience today. I know that I am working on an incredible solution. Our kids have had incredible care providers who are like extra family members and nurture that beautiful attachment. I think that guilt for me kicks in even more when I know that they are I don't want to say like bad hands, but they're not in like my standard, which is like
Mm-hmm.
extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
And but I just had to have this moment of like, you know what, like on the net greater whole, like this is where I'm meant to be in this moment. And it's like, I think as mothers, two things can be true at the same time. And I think that's my whole like battle cry. And I really think that's what modern motherhood is like what does it mean to live our full expression of motherhood? That's going to look different for every single person. But I think, it's a really old paradigm that, to be a good mother means being physically with our children 100% of the time and absenting ourselves, letting go of every other pursuit in the name of motherhood. Because I know if I did that, I wouldn't be bringing my best self to my kids. And I would be probably equally importantly feeling something decay inside of me. So the way I deal with that guilt when it comes up is like, number one, what is that? That guilt is a messenger. What is it? Guilt in and of itself, I don't think is like a primary emotion. It's an arrow pointing to something. And for me, when I experience that guilt, usually I'm tapping into a need that needs attention. So for me, if I'm feeling guilty about my something to do with my kids for some reason, normally that's information of like, well, I'm aware that they have a need that is being under serviced at the moment. So what can I do about that? Now, not every need is going to have an instantaneous solution, but for me, the way that I like make peace with that is like, I'm on it, I'm working it as fast as we can. And gosh, this would probably be one of my top 5 lessons of motherhood. I am going to let good enough be good enough today. So
Mm.
even though we are not, we don't have our all-time, A player childcare person in this exact moment at the time of this recording. He's good. He's in safe hands. The big kids are good. And like, we're good. And I'm able to show up for the things that matter here and spend so much time with my kids. And like, that's good enough. And so really letting ourselves off the hook in those ways while also paying attention. Because I think that feeling of guilt, it doesn't do anything for us if we're just stewing in it and we internalize it and make it mean something bad about us as a person. Like I really think that's wasting that information, like, electrical current. If we're tuning into, okay, my maternal intuition is telling me that there's a need here that needs to be met. I'm on it. I'm working on it. I think that is like more than good enough.
Yeah, that's so deeply true for me. I agree. And also, I think you highlighted something that I just want to double highlight, which is I think my daughter was only like 2 months old, and a trusted person in my life said to me, like, spend the next, what is it, 10 months until she turns a year, getting really comfortable as you can with her being uncomfortable. Because our job, I don't believe our job as mothers is to prevent discomfort, right? We cannot prevent discomfort. And so I think for me, a lot of that guilt is really tolerating her discomfort, right? And
Mm,
also knowing that I'm not here to make her life a padded room. Like, I'm here to support her in all of her feelings.
mm,
And so it's like, yeah, there's something still in that unraveling of like, it's my job to fix every single moment, right? It's my job to
mm.
make sure she never cries. It's my job to make sure that when she cries for me, I am there 100% of the time, which is actually impossible, right? And so, yeah, I really feel you. And I think that was just such a beautiful and honest way of unraveling that moment of guilt, of really like, you're on it on the macro, and in the micro, it's okay that your boy is experiencing some uncomfortable feelings.
Totally. And knowing that I'm making eye contact with you, buddy. I'm gonna see you at lunchtime. Buddy, you're
Mm.
gonna have an awesome time, and just like reorienting, infusing that connection. And yeah, I just think it is giving ourselves permission to not have to be it all, at every single moment. Because we'd make ourselves crazy.
Well, we do make ourselves crazy.
Yeah, totally.
And that's also a little bit inevitable, right? And I want to talk, of course, we're going to talk about the business side, guys. Don't worry. I know she's brilliant at that too. Um, but where this conversation is going for me is I feel like, you mentioned that this wasn't really a conversation in 2019 and now it is, and that I hear that. And I'm probably more aware of it now that I'm actually a mother than I was when I wasn't, right? But I think there's so much happening in this conversation and in this moment for mothers, from the work of Greer Kirschenbaum and the nurture revolution to the type of work you're doing. And you're not alone out there. You're definitely a pioneer and a trailblazer in that. But there are other people, like you said, talking about this. So it's just really fascinating to me that this is this time where it's like mothers are kind of like trying to figure out like where do we land, like all of the things that certain mothers were told in maybe the 70s, 80s, 90s about how sleep works and how, nurture and spoiling babies is kind of being unraveled. And at the same time, parallel to that, the idea that we have to give up our lives until our kids are 10 or whatever, 20, and then we can maybe have some time for ourselves is also unraveling. So I just think it's like, and kind of those things are the same but different in a way. So I'm curious like how you feel about the time and the movement and being a mother in this time where things are unraveling.
I'm so glad you are so good at this, Cody. I'm obsessed with this show. I love it. You're so good at this. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
I love this question because I don't know Greer personally, but I would love to know her. I love her work. I love following her on Instagram. And I very much, I half an hour before this call, I was literally, I'm still in this moment. I've got my Blundstones on. They're probably covered in chicken poop. I was out in my, hen house collecting eggs. Like, I think that we have and I'm a multi 7-figure CEO. And so but we have in this modern day, we have such an extreme, I mean, in so many areas, this is true. I think this extremely polarized view of what it means to be a mother right now. Either you are in camp, shoulder pads and like sleek haircut and like cash, money, or, washboard abs, whatever, or you are like in the sourdough starter, wearing my grandma's apron, kumbaya side, but like these don't fit. And, one side over here co-sleeps and breastfeeds till age 6. And the other side is like on that formula and empowering moms to make choices that are best for them and sleep training, it's like there's all these lines of division. And how I understand both I don't even want to say my role, like how I'm doing it and how I think about it is exactly like there are really, really important voices. Erica, I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Yeah.
Thomas Sauer, I think her name is. I think
Hmm.
her book called Being There, it's all about the importance of the first 3 years. I love her work, and I know she really advocates for mothers to like take a break and just focus primarily on mothering in those first 3 years. What I will tell you is that the being a CEO and working from home, I'm not talking about being a CEO of like a Fortune 500 company. I mean, running your own business, starting your own business. This is why I am such a fierce advocate of mothers being entrepreneurs. This is why I have programs that support moms to take their gifts, many of whom had successful careers as therapists or teachers or some other, external practice that was not conducive to motherhood, and learn the skills of online business. Because right now, I am able to ebb and flow and cross that permeable membrane during the day so that in fact, am here. Like, I'm not with
Hmm.
my child in this hour, but like, he's probably going to go down for a sleep. He'll probably be sleeping through 45 minutes of this 1 hour interview. I am there. I was with my kid, okay, my big kids now, big 3 and 5, but they're at preschool and kindergarten. But during their years here at the house, like every single morning, we made family breakfast together. Every single day, we came together for lunch, all five of us, Monday through Friday.
Mm.
And then adventures and whatever we're doing on the weekend. Some days farm days, some days going out. Every single day together for dinner. Like that cadence and that rhythm. I think that we are in a moment in the culture where we don't really have a definition for what it means to be this woman embodying both. And I'm not saying that every woman's path needs to be starting her own business, but what I am saying is that, I mean, all you have to do is look at like maternity leave policies
Mm.
or paid time off to realize that corporate America is not set up for motherhood. And the solution is not just saying like, we need more moms back in the home. So like, don't work at all. Personally, that's what I believe. And yet I do hold some of these, like, I guess you would say, quote unquote, traditional values from a lifestyle perspective. But I did this post yesterday that is getting a ton of engagement right now, which is like, I'm seeing a lot of content calling for mothers to reassume their vital role in the home as the homemaker and the heartbeat that only we can do. And I agree with that 100%. And I don't believe that that means we need to give up our income, our agency, our professional voice. What I do think is that we need to figure out, how can I not only live that expression for my own like personal soul's fulfillment, but for a sense of like dharma living out through me. How can I find a way for my gifts to be expressed in a way that is simpatico with motherhood, in a way that is conducive to flowing with and blending with motherhood? And I have not found a more viable pairing than entrepreneurship and motherhood.
Mm.
And
Mm.
that is what enables me to, you know, integrate these like ancestral wisdom. Yesterday, I'll just give you like, I don't know, this is maybe a silly example, but yesterday, my mom came over after she was working because I was interviewing another potential nanny, and she was helping me around the house with the kiddos, giving them a snack so I could interview this nanny. And I had these pork chops in the fridge that I knew like I needed to cook yesterday. But it turned out, I mean, I was making like apple cider braised pork chops with like sauteed cabbage, roast potatoes. It was really like a Sunday dinner. I don't know, but I needed to cook these
On a
pork
Monday,
chops
guys, on a
on
Monday.
a Monday. And I'm like, this is ridiculous, but I'm cooking this because like I want my kids to have home cooked meals. I want my kids to, and this is not like, please, we do our fair share of chicken nuggets over here. So don't eye roll me right now. Like we do that. But I was like, in my head, I could be like, oh, I'm solo parenting this week, which I am. Oh, I'm like coming off of work and this interview and I don't want to do that. But I'm like, I get to live this expression of both. And I think when we're so we have to be really careful of the ways we almost like categorize ourselves of like, oh, it's hard, so I have to do this, or it's, you know, it's I don't know, we like type ourselves into like, oh, this, I'm this kind of mother or that kind of mother. And what I stand for more than anything is like, what is the fullness of what you actually desire? Financially, lifestyle wise, energetically, in your home, relationally, what do you want? And how are you making choices that allow yourself and your family to get to experience the fullness of whatever that is?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and we don't have a map, right? Like there's a lot of things where maybe we do have a map for them, sort of, but it's just, again, like such an interesting time. I mean, probably everybody said this, but for me, it's like there's one version which is like the 1950s version, right? And then there's maybe the 80s version where it's like working 9 to 5, like the power suit and like there's nothing like
So real.
right? I mean, yeah, I'm aging myself, but that's okay. And there's no, yeah, like no one, there's no ritual around this. Like there's not a lot yeah, ritual when you're moving from maiden, when one is, well, personally me, moving from maidenhood to motherhood. Like I just kind of fell in there and, had the things and thought I would do the things that you're supposed to do. And that didn't work for my kid.
Oh my gosh, I so feel you with this. And it's really funny because my experience, like I'll be so curious to know, what you think about this. But my experience of this is I almost feel like for me, of course, going from not having children to having a baby was like life altering and massively identity changing. But in many ways, I don't know how else to say this. My experience was like, and maybe I don't know why, but it almost felt like I was able to still be in many ways like my maiden self as a mother. And then having two under two, the universe was like, ah, like that's out the window. Like it was almost like everything fell to the ground. Everything had to be repacked. There was no more like muscle memory of the way of doing things because in many ways it's like, okay, we can tag team my husband and I, or we can get childcare in, but like, whoa, now this constellation and now having three, I'm
Mm.
like, there is only now this evolution into a totally different way of operating. And it's not that like, I think that our maiden self has different capacity. She has different design. She is different. She's accustomed to different things. She's accustomed to being able to like do things when she wants and how she wants. And as a mother, it's not often I say like this whole idea of like we have to sacrifice as a mom is rubbish. And sometimes I get pushback of like, well, isn't there a noble sacrifice? And it's like, of course, if your child is crying and you're tired in the middle of the night and like your child needs you, like, yes, you're sacrificing that sleep to go check on them and make sure they're okay. So from that instance, it's not to say there is nothing that we're giving up, but this idea that we have to abandon ourselves entirely, that's the thing that I take issue with. And so for me, it's really honoring. You were speaking about this rite of passage and this ritual or this lack of ritual. And for me, there's almost this like honoring of that maiden identity and how she served and how she's actually so capable in so many ways. And yet this evolution and rising more into that mother matriarch identity archetype frequency is really about stewardship, benevolent stewardship, and taking into account needs of the collective of my home that are greater than just like my personal desires in the moment.
Totally. Yeah. And there's a lot of black and white in this. Like you were saying before, people feel the need to identify themselves in this way or that way. And I think sort of my experience of you and your work is that there's a lot of room and a lot of space to create your own definition. Like you don't have to do it, like you were saying, you don't have to be barefoot and covered in sourdough starter or like wearing heels and a power suit. You could do both or none, right? And so yeah, it's just really interesting. And I think, I don't have two kids yet, God knock on wood. But I mean, I want to have two kids, not knock on wood, I won't. But for me, I think that I almost feel more myself and my intuition is much stronger and I've been seeing that over and over again, right? Like because I also came up against this good girl thing, right? Like, oh, I didn't realize how badly I wanted to be good until I had a baby and there was all this advice like you need to do this and you need to do this and we lied to people about what we were doing at first because I didn't want the judgment. Like my baby was in
Mm,
bed when she was 4 days old and we were like, "Yes, she's sleeping in the bassinet and she's blah blah blah."
yes.
And eventually I was like, F that, and I told people the truth. But I've seen with these milestones for me, it's come out like breastfeeding, toileting, that actually I know what's right for
Yes.
her. And I know when to do these things and sort of how. Like, yes, there can be some study, but I know.
Well, okay, I love that you are saying this because this to me, like, this is my whole thesis around why mothers are and it's not just a thesis, there's so much data to back it up. Like, this intuitive, spidey sense. So, there's a whole like neurochemical reasoning for this.
Mm.
During pregnancy and into postpartum, the gray matter of the brain, so the center that is responsible for short-term memory recall, vocabulary, executive functioning, it's why we say, oh, I have pregnancy brain or I have mom brain. And we're like, can you pass me the thingy? And it's like the word is spoon. And yet somehow that just has left the building, exited the chat, don't know how to say that word. And yet our kid can be on the other side of the room. We are not even looking and we just turn around. I don't know if this is true for you, but I'm like, James has been quiet for 11
Mm-hmm.
seconds. He is
Mm-hmm.
pooping in a corner. I
Mm-hmm.
know
Right.
he has a marker or he's pooping in a
Yeah,
corner. So let
marker,
me go
yeah.
see what's going on. And sure enough, today, green everywhere. I'm like, but that is how we know. And that is a biological development that's called the default mode network inside of the brain astronomically grows. It's like if you look at a graph, it astronomically, or brain mapping, that part of the brain explodes, because that is, and that's responsible for human evolution. It's why mothers have, you've heard this before as well, mother's instinct. That exact same instinct of, I actually know that my child should be in bed with me right now, or I know how to do this potty training moment, or I know XYZ thing. If we as mothers bring that same knowing into our businesses, that same amount of self-trust, imagine what it means. Like when I talk about growing our business from the root of our motherly power, that is what I'm talking about, is like what happens when I allow my instinct to lead the way. Doesn't mean there's no space for like skill building or taking a course here or there, or like accentuating my intuitive knowing, but my intuitive knowing is in the driver's seat. And I think I agree. I could not agree with you more, Cody, that letting our intuition guide us, letting ourselves really be so mindful of who we're taking advice from, but know that my instinct and my gut is the authority. My instinct and my gut is the number one most equipped person to raise my child. What would it be like if we trusted ourselves to run and grow and build our companies in that exact same way?
Yeah, let's talk about it because I want to hear more about this. Which I mean, yeah. Um, so what I mean by that is a little bit ago in the conversation, you said when you first found out you were pregnant, you were like, got to get a job, right? Like, got to work on that Indeed.com profile. We're not knocking Indeed.com, but how did you go from that to this?
Yeah, well, I definitely like cried to my mentor, who was not a mom at the time, and she was like, "You're amazing, you'll figure it out." I really cried a lot to my husband. I think that, I was and still am the breadwinner in my family, and my husband was, at that time, he was in real startup mode, so he wasn't really making any money. And one of the things that I needed to have a really honest and raw conversation with him of like, if I need to take a break or if I need to scale back, I need to know that you can pick up the baton. And it was just, that was not the only thing, but that was one of the things. It was just knowing that he had me, and that it wasn't all going to be on me, released a huge amount of pressure that I was feeling so that I could exhale and soften. And then so it was part of that like energetic and, relational agreement. And then one part, like really looking at my own, fears and how my mind was making up a whole story about it. It was one part, having the right resources, and making sure we were in the right place. So we ended up leaving LA, coming back to Maine, making sure we were close to my parents, hiring a postpartum doula, having that hands-on support, which made it so practically possible. But then it was also really ripping up the narrative of like, oh, my life is about to be over, or like, oh, I need to take, again, like the shoulds of motherhood, of feeding, sleeping, whatever. Also the shoulds of how we're supposed to do maternity leave. It's like, I was told, definitely take off the last like month, maybe 2 months of your pregnancy, and like you're going to want to take a few months off. And for me, like my business astronomically exploded during that pregnancy. I think I did 300K in sales in the final 2 weeks of my pregnancy. This was in
Wow.
2020. And I pre-sold a mastermind. This was in September, early October, that didn't start until January. And we did like multi six figures in sales, like a 6-figure cash month, did that again, pregnant with Jack. And it was just, so part of it was like strategic timing, but part of it was also giving myself permission to do it in a different way. When everyone was like, slow down, it wasn't like I was speeding up for the sake of speeding up, but my experience was like, I am literally bursting. I'm plump with all of this ideation, all of this creative energy. And hello, not surprising, you are literally channeling like an electrical current, so much creative energy at that time. Of course it wants to go somewhere, and not making ourselves wrong. Like I remember a mentor said to me, make sure you pick up a hobby. Like you might want to try knitting. Literally, she said this to me. You might want to try knitting. And I was like, I'm not gonna make a sweater, but I will make some money. And just letting that be okay.
Mm,
And so yeah, that for me was a real tipping point, a tipping point of like, oh, I don't have to do this and pretend. See, like I feel like the maiden expression in business, and I'm being, reductive, but just to speak about it in this way, kind of has two modes. It's either like Uber, leaned back, feed me grapes, manifest from the bathtub, masturbate to millions, whatever, like that sort of vibe. Or it's like, go get it, grind it out. If you want it, go get it, chase it down. And in motherhood, like neither of those approaches really work. And in a sustainable way. And I've seen that not only for myself, but just for my clients as well. And what it took for me and what helped me really start to see, oh, there is this other way is like, I am being highly strategic right now, but I'm not like burning myself out to sell something that I have to turn around and deliver straight away. I am like strategically planning to sell something that starts in 5 months. I'm giving myself a little bit of a buffer, but also giving myself permission to like dive back in when I'm feeling inspired to, and I'm not putting myself in a box. And for me, that was just so, so incredibly helpful. And then it was actually on Ella's first birthday that I took on the day itself that I took the pregnancy test and found out I was pregnant with Jack. So that was
wow.
an emotional day. We were in Santorini. I'll never forget that. I took my parents, it was their 60th wedding anniversary that year. So I took them, like, I'm such a good gift giver. I'll take you and myself and my family to Greece to celebrate. So we
Can you
went to,
watch the kid?
yeah, exactly. I got you a babysitting gig in Santorini. No, so we took them to Greece, and I was like, I'm a few days late. I just want to
Mm,
check. And we found out, and it was really the birth of Jack. This was back in 2022. My birth experience with him really solidified for me the desire to pivot the whole company. That really planted the
mm,
seed. And it was about 9 or 10 months after his birth that I finally ripped off the Band-Aid and rebranded the company from Cait Scudder International to the Millionaire Mother, and changed the name of the podcast and really shifted the conversation. Because for me, I was a business coach before, blending energy and strategy, similar in essence to what I do now. But motherhood was always this like tangential, cute side. Like maybe once in a blue moon, I'd like mention it, or like, here's a cute picture of me and Ella. Meanwhile, especially when I had two, everything about my reality was being rewritten. My entire personality, my entire daily rhythm, my entire sense of who I am and how I wanted to operate in the world and what it meant to be in the world and how I even felt about achievement. So real quick, I'll just share this story here. So with Ella, I had a hospital birth. We were planning for a home birth. It didn't go the way that we wanted. I had a lot of trauma around that. I really devoted myself to healing from that, completely rewriting the story. And I had the most incredible home water birth with Jack, my little cancer baby. It makes me just cry just
mm.
remembering it, because with Jack was 10 pounds and 15 ounces. He was a fucking toddler. And at oh gosh, he came out of me without me pushing. I experienced
Wow.
what a lot of women experience called FER, the fetal ejection reflex. So my body basically expelled him. Now, please don't hear that and think, wow, she just slipped a 11 pounder right out. Like, absolutely not. It was so much work, but the work was allowing myself to stay
Mm,
open and surrender to this extraordinary power
mm,
wanting to move through me. The work was not getting in the way.
mm,
And so for me, Jack, oh, I'm like right back there talking about this. For me, that experience changed everything. And like I shared with you at the beginning of this, Cody, I am like a tomboy athlete. I was recruited in college to play collegiate basketball. My old podcast was called Born to Rise. I'm like, a very much like I would have been a great Nike poster child girl. Like, go, just do it, just get out there. If you want to achieve it, go dream it, go do it. And for me with Jack, it was like, it was not my conscious doing that brought him here. It was my allowing this extraordinary, this tsunami-like power that is dormant inside of me, inside of every woman, to bring him here. And I'm like, hold the phone. If that is how I can birth an 11-pound miracle into the world, what does this mean about how I'm running my business?
Mm,
And what does this mean about what I am letting lead? Is it my mind and my willpower and just my push, or is it something else? And that was confronting as hell, because I had like a multi-million-dollar offering, which I ended up closing. And I had a lot of, pre-existing proof of concept, if you will. And my knowing, my maternal instinct was like, there's a deeper conversation that has to be had here. And it is all about this.
mm.
And I finally gave myself permission to go all in, not have motherhood as just a cute little side caption or a pop-up 4-week program here or there, but to be the center of the brand. And so I made that pivot in 2023, and we did that in July. I opened a masterclass in August. We welcomed 15,000 new women into our
Wow.
community in a month.
Wow.
And it was just like off to the races.
Wow. That's incredible. It just reminds me of a lot of times I say to myself or my daughter, whoever's around, these moments where we just feel the biggerness of life, right? Like get stuck in the mundane and we're human. And then every once in a while, there's these times in our lives where we're like, whoa, there's so much more going on here. There's so much more driving force around my life and around what's happening than just like what I'm experiencing in the moment. And so yeah, like how all these experience we have, we might not know in the moment. Like I'm sure 2020 you didn't know that 2023 you would be where she is, right? It's just sort of following that intuition and seeing that. So yeah, it's just so powerful. And I am sure that everyone is feeling as inspired as I am right now. And the question I want to ask you might feel like a bit of a veer, but I don't think it is, which is I'd love in our remaining time to really talk to you about money because I'm curious about how, in this shift that you were having, how your concept of money changes and how you came to own and live in this very bold title of the Millionaire Mother.
Yes, I love this question so much. So, okay, I'm going to take you back to 2020 when I was still pregnant. And at the time, my VIP coaching practice, my private coaching was 4K a month. It was $48,000 a year. And I was like completely booked out. And I had more demand than I did capacity. And Toby was like, you need to change your rate. You need to raise your rates to 100K. And I was like, babe, you are insane. Like, again, remember, I'm the financial breadwinner. I'm pregnant. I've got a lot of fear about money and stuff coming up. And he's like, Cait, this is like basic economics. There is more more demand than there is supply. You need to raise this is crazy. You need to raise your rates. This was my first little initiation in surrender. I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I raised my rates to $100,000 for the year. I'm like, yeah, no one is ever going to buy this, but sure, I'll do it. Because I knew he was right. I knew I couldn't just keep, taking on more and more and more one-to-one clients. Well, I was teaching a group program at the time and about sales. And I remember mentioning in one of our live coaching calls, we were talking about like offer suite and pricing. And I just dropped, I didn't even like pitch at all, but I just mentioned, this is why I have like a 6-figure private coaching container, not like 1%, half of a percent of my audience is ever going to buy that, but it is the offer for the right woman. And when I did that, I had one of the women reach out to me and she said, that has got my name on it. And she signed up that week. And I was like, okay, we have just really landed at a whole new level. And so I share that story and I really have to give credit to Toby because I think a lot of the time, sometimes we need someone to reflect back to us. It's not that he like planted something in me that wasn't there before, but to reflect what they already see, which is this knowing of like, you are worth that every single day of the week. Do you know that there are coaches that get paid $1 million a year to be like at McKinsey or whatever, like to provide. I hear you. He's like, babe, I hear you every day. You're so loud. I can't not hear you. You are so good. And like, you are worth that every day of the week. So not only strategically, like basic economics, he's like, that you are that person. And I borrowed his belief and just let myself stand in that and let it happen. And that's such a powerful, that was a real turning point moment for me of, okay, we're doing this. And like I mentioned to you, really riding that a lot of the momentum in that pregnancy and having that strategic build and like having a multi six-figure month, like in my third trimester, I'm like, oh, this is what it gets to be like. This is what it gets to be like. And I think for me, part of the journey with money, because I did not grow up, wealthy. My mom paid for milk and eggs on, government assistance. And I remember going grocery shopping with her and like not getting grapes the weeks that they weren't on sale, and having that consciousness around money of like, there's not always enough. We never were like, on the street, God forbid, but we definitely were not like in the lap of luxury at all. And for me, calibrating to wealth, or however
Mm,
you want to call it, it was less about like, oh, just like buy fancy things and like kind of act as if or something like that. That wasn't it. It was more like, don't you see that like it is meant for you? And it was really an
mm,
identity self-concept shift, and like letting myself see myself in that way and carry myself in that way. And that same nugget has been true for me in every single area of my life. And so I know you're going to be at my house so soon, Cody, for homecoming, and this is something that I get reflected every single time I've run events at my house, or I have people in my home. We have an incredible home staff that is here. Our housekeeper, Jeannie, God bless her. I love her so, so much. And she's been such an incredibly important part of our family. But every time people come into our home and they're here and they see like, wow, you have like a staff at your house, and like you operate with so much grace, but you're also not like shy about the fact that you have support. And I think that same like kind of contraction, like it's a dirty little secret that I have help, or
mm,
it's a dirty little secret that I have
mm,
money. Letting go of that, for me, it's this really graceful acceptance and acknowledgement that, of course, being a well-resourced woman and mother makes life better for everyone. So removing any ounce of shame, greediness, and you've heard me riff on this before, Cody, but when we boil it down, like the lie, right? And this has been perpetuated culturally for any vast number of reasons, but that the material, like from this almost like moral kind of archaic overtone, the material is like the realm of sin and badness and corruption, and the realm of the spirit, like no body, non-material, just essence, soul, that is the realm of the eternal. When actually the root of material is the same root of the word maternal, which is
mm,
mater, the Latin word for matter.
mm,
And all of matter, all that is material, all that has ever been created came through that matter, that
mm,
mother. And letting, so for me, so much of the journey with money has been letting go of any cultural conditioning of like money is bad, and really recognizing that like I am a portal of creation, and when I am richly resourced, that gets to impact everything around me. And that identity shift might not sound practical, but I will tell you, it has shifted my relationship with money and my attraction of money more exponentially than anything else.
mm. I feel like this podcast today has been like a brain rewiring, which is so beautiful. Like we should put some undertones, like some hurts
Yes.
under here. I'll work on that. No, seriously, I really do. I feel like there, just are so, in so many ways, we've talked about how important it is, no matter where you are in motherhood. And I'm assuming many people listening to this are probably mothers in business because they're going to be attracted to this, right? Um, but to just really watch for those things that say you're supposed to be this way.
Mm,
And so, I'm so thankful. I'm in one of Cait's mastermind spaces, and I'm so thankful that I said yes, even though it was a real leap for me, guys. Um, because that rewire, I mean, there's so much practical stuff in there, guys. I'm going to give Cait some space to talk about her spaces in a minute, but there's so much. But this part of just like rewiring what it means and all of the stuff that we've talked about is important and is going to help our kids and is just such a big deal. So yeah, as we wrap up, I do want to give you a little space to talk about how people can connect with you, what you've got going on right now, or in a month and a half, because that's probably when people are going to hear this conversation. But yeah, take it away.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for having me, Cody. This was so fun and I just loved every minute of it. So I run two masterminds for mother entrepreneurs. The Foundry, which is our 6-month mastermind container for women who are building those 6-figure foundations and scaling to their first 6-figure year. So you could be brand new to business, you could be pivoting, you could be getting your ducks in a row to go in a different direction, but are really, really working to build a solid, profitable online business to that 6-figure level. So if you're interested in the Foundry, we're going to be opening up a fall cohort. You can either click the link in the show notes or send me a DM and comment the word waitlist to be added to the waitlist for that. And then I also run the Inner Circle, MME the Inner Circle, which is a year-long container for women at the 6, multi-6, even 7-figure level who are wanting that space to grow and rise alongside other mother entrepreneurs. So both spaces are intentionally designed for mother entrepreneurs specifically. So no tactics and strategies that are really optimal for people who don't have kids or that require you to overextend beyond your motherhood capacity. Doesn't matter what your childcare situation is, doesn't matter if you're pregnant and don't have any littles around the house, doesn't matter if you have 7 running around, you're going to find your people there. So and you can DM me the word circle if you're interested in hearing more about that. I also have a brand new free workshop coming up called Inheritance, and we'll leave a link for that as well.
Yeah, amazing. And follow Cait on Instagram. That link will be there. She's got amazing content. And I highly, highly recommend Cait for so many reasons. And I can tell you that she is a woman of integrity. I have had moments with Cait that have been, you know, have shown me that over and over and over again. So thank you so much, Cait. I really appreciate this conversation. And this is a little wacky what I'm about to do, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Okay,
In the
great.
last 3 minutes, I never do this, but we started this conversation before we record. You're like, oh no, is Cody gonna tell me to reorganize my desk? And I promised you that this would be about you. But then when you were talking about childcare, this has been up for me a lot this week. So just as a little ending, I'm going to give you this really simple feng shui ritual. So for
Okay, great.
anyone, so for anyone that needs a little help, I've shared this many times in many different spaces, but I'm going to share it here again. It's called the silver box ritual, and it's very simple. All you're going to do is you're going to find any kind of silver box. You can literally take a ball jar and put tin foil around it. That can work too. And you're going to find a red pen and ideally some red string. If you don't have red string, that's okay. And you're going to write up to 3 intentions in the present, like I have the most loving, incredible, up to my standards, childcare, blah blah blah, right? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You're going to roll it up and wrap it 108 times with this red string. You're going to place it in your little silver box and you're going to put it in anywhere in the front right of your home. So this is the helpful people and travel area of your home. So this is the area of our home in the Bagua map where we call in support. So this is just a fun little way to sort of get the energetics going along with the practical.
Oh my gosh, I love this. And my office is in the front
Oh,
right of our home.
perfect. So you can
I'm
just
doing it.
tuck it in. You're still there. See, that was funny because that was like that mental thing. She's going to tell me something about my office, right? So, yeah, that's just a fun little ritual and try it out. And then I have one right here. I have no idea what's written in that, but I'm going to refresh mine because I've been meaning to do that. So I'm really curious to see what happens. We'll have to connect and
Oh
talk
my
about it.
gosh. Okay, I love it. Doing it today, doing it right now. Cody, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks,
This was a
Cait.
blast.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.